AITA for leaving game night after she called me the safe, boring choice? I'm John, 41, and by the time this happened, Sienna and I had been together almost 4 years. I was the boyfriend who kept an extra phone charger in my car because hers was always dying, remembered which takeout place had messed up her order 2 times, and honestly thought being steady meant I was doing something right. What I didn't understand yet was that Sienna liked my stability when it helped her, but hated how it looked when she wanted the room to see her as exciting. I didn't start out resenting her. That's the part that makes this whole thing embarrassing to admit. I loved Sienna's confidence. She was quick, funny, pretty in a way that made strangers turn their heads, and she could turn an ordinary Friday night into the place everyone wanted to be. In the beginning, her teasing felt affectionate. At a backyard barbecue during our first year together, I brought extra napkins because the host forgot them. Sienna held them up like I had brought gold bars. "See," she said, laughing. "This is why I keep him. He thinks of everything." Everybody laughed, including me. It felt sweet back then. She called me the prepared one when I brought a phone charger. She called me responsible in a cute way when I made sure nobody drove home after too many drinks. Our friends would say we balanced each other out. Sienna was spontaneous. I was steady. I thought that meant we worked. Then the jokes changed. Prepared became too safe. Responsible became boring but useful. She started saying things like, "John is husband material in the least exciting way." And then she would pat my arm before I could react. "Relax," she'd say. "I'm kidding." The first few times, I let it go. Nobody wants to be the guy who can't take a joke. And honestly, she was good at making the insult disappear inside the laugh. If I frowned, I looked uptight. If I said something, I was proving her point. So I smiled. I took a sip of my drink. I told myself she didn't mean it. But after a while, it started landing differently. At a sports bar one night, I went outside to take a call from Sienna because she couldn't find her debit card and thought she might have left it in my car. When I came back in, Caleb was in my seat, leaning back with his beer like he had been waiting for an audience. "Careful," he said. "Hall monitor boyfriend is back." Sienna laughed into her straw. I looked at her. "Seriously?" She waved me off. "He's joking." Caleb lifted both hands. I didn't know jokes required a written apology now. That was Caleb's whole thing. He acted like everything he said was harmless because he said it with a smirk. He was Sienna's male best friend, though I never really knew what made him a best friend other than the fact that he had known her before I did and never let anyone forget it. He was always there in the group chat, always first to react to her stories, always asking if she was coming out when the rest of us had already made plans. He knew how to make an insult sound casual. "When are you upgrading?" he'd ask Sienna if I stepped away. Or, "John's the human seatbelt." Not fun, but probably good to have. Sienna never shut it down. Sometimes she'd say, "Ignore him. He thinks he's hilarious," but she said it while laughing. Sometimes she'd glance at me like my discomfort was the awkward part, not the joke. One night, after a casual dinner with friends, I brought it up in the car. She was scrolling through her phone with one hand and digging through her purse with the other, looking for lip balm. "Can you not call me useful like I'm a spare tire?" I asked. She didn't look up. "What?" "At dinner. You said I'm safe enough to split bills with. Last week it was boring but reliable. Before that, Caleb called me the human seatbelt and you laughed." She sighed like I had asked her to assemble furniture at midnight. "John, I'm not asking you to flatter me," I said. "I'm asking you not to make me smaller in front of people." That got her attention. She turned toward me, eyebrows raised. "You're turning my personality into a problem." "No, I'm telling you something hurts. It's how I talk. Everyone knows I don't mean it like that." "I don't know that anymore." She stared at me for a second, then shook her head and looked out the window. "You're getting weird about Caleb," she said. That was the first time she said it like that. Not annoyed about the jokes. Not sorry I felt bad. Weird about Caleb. After that, the group chat started feeling different. I didn't notice it all at once. It was little things. Sienna would send a meme about jealous boyfriends and tag me with laughing emojis. Caleb would reply, "Fun police energy." Somebody else would add a skull emoji. Priya, who was closer to Sienna but had always been friendly with me, would type, "Oh, you guys are too much," and I'd sit there wondering when I had become you guys instead of just John. Then there was the Instagram story. We had all gone to Sunday brunch, and I had driven Sienna because she said she didn't feel like dealing with parking. I paid for both of us because she forgot her wallet, which somehow happened 2 times a month. Later, she posted a close friend story of the table. I was cropped out except for my sleeve and half my hand reaching for my coffee. The caption said, "Brunch with people who don't make every plan feel like a budget meeting." I stared at it for longer than I should have. Then I texted her. Me. Was that about me? Sienna. Oh my God, John. Me. I'm asking. Sienna. It was a joke. You're literally proving the caption. I set my phone down and didn't answer. Not because I had nothing to say. Because I was starting to realize every response I had got folded back into the version of me she wanted people to see. A week before the game night, I met Nolan for coffee. Nolan had known me before I met Sienna, and unlike some people in that group, he didn't perform neutrality just to avoid tension. He listened while I scrolled through the messages, the jokes, the captions, the little digs that kept getting brushed off as comedy. He took my phone, read for a minute, then handed it back. "She's setting the stage," he said. "For what?" "For the explanation before the breakup even happens." I frowned. "We're not breaking up." Nolan didn't look convinced. "Maybe you're not planning to. But she's already telling people what kind of boyfriend you are. Jealous, sensitive, controlling, weird about Caleb. So if something happens and you react, she doesn't have to explain herself. She just points and says, 'See?' That made me angry because it sounded paranoid. It made me more angry because part of me knew he might be right. So what am I supposed to do?" I asked. "Just take it." "No," Nolan said. "You stop reacting on her stage." I thought about that sentence a lot. The game night was supposed to be nothing. Pizza, paper plates, drinks in a cooler by the kitchen, people crowded around a coffee table because the host didn't have enough chairs. Somebody forgot ice, so 3 people argued in the group chat about whether the freezer had enough. It was that normal. Sienna showed up late because she had changed outfits 2 times. I had picked up the pizza on the way because she said she was running behind, and "You're better at that stuff anyway." She kissed my cheek when I came in, light and quick, like she was checking a box. Caleb was already there. He leaned against the counter with a beer in his hand and gave me a little salute. "Pizza man," he said. I didn't answer. I put the boxes on the counter and went to grab a plate. The game started out fine. Dumb prompts. Bad jokes. People pretending not to care who was winning. Sienna was in her element, sitting cross-legged on the floor, laughing louder than anyone else. Caleb kept glancing at her after every joke like her reaction was the only score that mattered. Then came the prompt. Who in this room is most likely to be someone's safe choice? The room got that tiny pause when everyone knows there's a mean answer but waits to see who's willing to say it. Caleb leaned back. "Come on. We all know this one." I felt Sienna shift beside me. I had written my answer down and placed my card face down. It wasn't her turn to read. She grabbed it anyway, looked at it, and smiled. "Sienna," Priya said softly, like she already knew this could go sideways. Sienna ignored her and read my card out loud. Then she tossed it onto the table and said, "John, the guy women pick when they're tired of being excited." A couple of people laughed. Not real laughter. That uncomfortable little burst people make when they don't know whether they're allowed to object. Caleb grinned. "Come on," he said. "John knows he's the safe option." I looked around the room. Pizza boxes on the counter. Someone's phone buzzing against the table. Sienna smiling like she had just landed the perfect joke. Caleb watching me harder than anyone, waiting for the reaction he could use. And something in me went very calm. I placed my card face down. "Then stop pretending I'm your choice," I said. The room changed immediately. Sienna blinked. "Are you serious?" I stood up and reached for my jacket. "You're seriously making this a thing?" she said. "No," I said. "I'm refusing to be the entertainment." Caleb muttered, "Fragile." I looked at him once. Just once. Then I turned to the host. "Sorry for leaving awkwardly," I said. "Thanks for having me." Sienna followed me halfway to the door. "John, don't do this. You're ruining the night." I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. "You already did," I said. Then I left. I didn't speed away. I didn't punch the steering wheel. I didn't send a dramatic breakup text from the driveway. I sat in my car for maybe 2 minutes, listening to the dull sound of voices inside the house, and then I drove home. By the time I got there, I had 7 missed calls from Sienna and a string of texts. "Sienna, wow. Sienna, you really walked out over a game?" "Sienna, everyone is uncomfortable now." "Sienna, you made me look awful." I stared at that one for a while. "You made me look awful." "Not." I'm sorry I hurt you. Not. That went too far. Just the part where other people saw something she didn't want seen. I didn't respond that night. The next morning, the group chat lit up before I even got out of bed. Sienna, I just want to say I'm sorry game night got weird. John walked out because of one card game joke. 1. Caleb, some guys can't handle not being worshipped. Priya, it did get awkward, John. Another friend wrote, I mean the joke was rough, but leaving like that was a lot. Sienna, he's been weird lately. Especially about Caleb. I think last night was just the excuse. Caleb, careful, everyone. Hall monitor boyfriend is watching. I watched the messages come in with my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I wanted to answer. I wanted to type out every single thing she had said over the last few months. I wanted to ask Caleb how long he had been waiting for permission to say what he clearly thought. Then Nolan's voice came back to me. Do not hand her a clip of you losing your temper. So I didn't. I got up, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my messages with Sienna. Not to doom scroll. To look. And once I started looking, I saw the pattern. There were the texts where I'd asked her calmly to stop making the safe option jokes. Me. I don't like being called boring in front of everyone. Sienna, you're making it bigger than it is. Me. I'm telling you it bothers me. Sienna. So now I have to police my personality? There was the night she told the group chat I followed her to a bar because I couldn't let her have a night out. What actually happened was she texted me at 12:14 a.m. Sienna, can you come get me? Caleb left with some people and my ride bailed. Me, are you okay? Sienna, yeah, just annoyed. Please hurry. I still had the rideshare receipt from where I took a car there because I had already had one beer and didn't want to drive. I picked her up, got her food because she hadn't eaten, and paid for the ride back. The next day, she told the group I showed up like I was checking on her. There were the Venmo notes too. Little things, but they mattered. Dinner she later claimed we split, where I had paid the full bill because her card declined. A cabin deposit she told everyone she covered, where my Zelle confirmation showed I had fronted most of it, and she never paid me back. Concert tickets I bought because she said Caleb's friend could get a better deal, which somehow turned into me being too intense about plans. I wasn't looking for a way to destroy her. I was looking for proof that I wasn't crazy. Around noon, Nolan called. Don't respond yet, he said, without even saying hello. I haven't. Good. She's saying I've always been weird about Caleb. Of course she is. I rubbed my forehead. I feel like an idiot. You're not an idiot, he said. You're someone who kept giving your girlfriend the benefit of the doubt while she was passing it out to everyone else as a punchline. That was Nolan. Helpful, but with edges. I spent the rest of the day collecting what I already had. Texts, receipts, screenshots. Not everything. I wasn't going to throw private relationship details into a group chat because I was hurt. I wasn't trying to humiliate her for sport. I just wanted the lie to stop being the only version people heard. Then Priya messaged me privately. Priya, I don't want to be in the middle of this. I almost laughed because that sentence usually means someone is already in the middle and just doesn't want responsibility for where they're standing. Me, okay. Priya, but can I ask you something? Me, sure. Priya, she told you I planned that weekend trip, didn't she? I sat up straighter. Me, the lake weekend? Priya, yeah? Me. She said it was mostly girls and a couple friends. She said you handled the guest list. There was a long pause. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Priya, I didn't invite Caleb. My stomach dropped, not because I was shocked Caleb was involved, but because I suddenly understood why Sienna had been so careful with how she described that trip. Me, who did? Priya, Sienna. Another pause. Priya, I defended her because I thought I knew the story. I didn't. Then the screenshots came in. Not hacked. Not stolen. Not something I found by going through Sienna's phone. Priya had them because Sienna had pulled her into the planning chat early, then moved half the actual planning into a side thread with Caleb and another friend. Priya found out later and saved the messages because she was annoyed Sienna had used her name whenever the trip sounded questionable. One screenshot showed Sienna texting Caleb after midnight. Sienna, John is stable, but not forever. Caleb, he knows that? Sienna, he knows what I let him know. Another one. Sienna, John is safe, but you make me feel like I'm not wasting my life. Caleb, keep him around until the boring stuff is handled. Sienna, your terrible face with tears of joy. There were other messages. Nothing explicit enough for her to be able to say, fine, I cheated. which I'm sure she would later use as a technical defense. But it was enough. It was the tone, the planning, the way she talked about me like I was a useful chair she was sitting in until something better opened up. Priya also sent a screenshot where Sienna had written, "If John asks, Priya wanted a mixed group. He gets weird when Caleb is involved." Priya followed it with, "Priya, I didn't say that. Priya, I'm sorry." I typed back, deleted it, typed again. Me, thank you for telling me. Priya, I really don't want drama. Me, I didn't create this. Priya, I know. That night, I made a folder on my phone and laptop. I named it the part Sienna left out. I ordered everything chronologically. First, my messages asking her privately to stop turning me into a joke. Then the group chat where she framed that boundary as me being sensitive and controlling. Then the rideshare receipt from the night she said I followed her. Then the payment notes. Then the weekend screenshots from Priya. Then the Caleb texts. I redacted anything that didn't matter. I blocked out unrelated names. I left out anything that was intimate or personal just for the sake of being personal. I didn't include every mean thing she had ever said. I included what showed the pattern. The next 2 days were strange. Sienna called repeatedly, but her voicemails weren't apologetic. They were strategic. "John, this is childish. We need to talk like adults." Then, "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Then, "You're punishing me because I laughed at a joke." Then, "You know how I talk. Everyone knows I don't mean it like that." I listened to each one once and saved them. I didn't call back. In the group chat, the pressure built. "Sienna, I'm not going to beg someone to communicate." "Caleb, he's probably writing a manifesto." Someone else. "John, maybe just talk to her privately." Priya didn't say anything. Nolan didn't either. But he texted me separately. "Nolan, let her choose the public stage if she wants it. Then use it once. Not 10 times. Once." I didn't know what once would look like until the following weekend. There was another casual hangout at the same host's place. I wasn't planning to go. Nolan convinced me to stop by because a couple of my things from game night were still there, including a jacket I had left on the back of a chair. He said he'd go with me, and I could leave after 5 minutes. When we walked in, the vibe was fake normal. Paper plates on the counter, chips in bowls, a cooler by the sliding door. People talking too loudly in that way they do when they all know something is wrong, but are pretending the room can outrun it. Sienna was in the kitchen with Priya. Caleb was near the couch, scrolling his phone. When he saw me, his mouth twitched like he was about to say something. Then he looked at Nolan and apparently thought better of it. I grabbed my jacket from the chair. Sienna stepped forward. "So you'll come here, but you won't answer my calls," she said. "I came to get my jacket." She laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Of course. That's what we're doing now." I didn't answer. That bothered her more than if I had argued. She turned slightly, making sure the room could hear. "If you're going to embarrass me in front of everyone, at least be honest about why you left." A few people went still. Not dramatic. No gasps. Just forks pausing over paper plates. Phones lowering. Caleb leaning back like the show had finally started. I looked at Sienna, then at Caleb, then at the rest of them. "Fine," I said. "Let's be honest." I opened the group chat. My thumb hovered for 1 second over the folder link. Not because I doubted what was in it. Because once I sent it, there was no pretending this was just a bad night anymore. Then I sent it. The message landed in the group chat. The part Sienna left out. Under it, I wrote, "You can call me insecure if you want. But if everyone is judging me, everyone gets the context." The room changed in a way I still remember. It wasn't loud. It was worse. People opened their phones one by one, and the little sounds filled the space. Taps. A video muted. Someone whispering, "Wait, what?" Someone else saying, "Is that from the lake trip?" Sienna's face went flat before it went upset. "What is this?" she said. "Context," I said. Caleb stood up from the couch. "Man, this is obsessive." Priya's head snapped toward him. "No," she said. "What's obsessive is helping someone lie and then calling it a joke." Caleb's smirk dropped. Sienna turned on Priya. "Are you kidding me?" Priya's voice shook a little, but she kept going. "You used my name. You told him I planned that trip so Caleb being there wouldn't look like what it was." "It wasn't anything," Sienna said quickly. "Then why lie about it?" Priya asked. Nobody answered. One of our friends, Marcus, looked up from his phone. "Sienna, did you really tell Caleb John was just your safe option?" Sienna's eyes flicked to me, then to the group. "That's not fair," she said. Those texts are out of context. I almost laughed. Which context makes keep him around until the boring stuff is handled better? Caleb said, I was joking. You're always joking, Nolan said from beside me. Convenient how it only gets serious when someone saves the punchline. Sienna's eyes filled with tears then. I had seen her cry before, but this was different. She wasn't crying when I left game night. She wasn't crying in the voicemails where she said I humiliated her. She was crying now that the room wasn't automatically on her side. You're humiliating me, she said. I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I didn't feel the urge to explain my pain in a way she might accept. No, I said. You humiliated me for entertainment. I'm showing people why I stopped playing along. She wiped under her eye. I was just joking. No, you were recruiting witnesses. That one landed. I could see it in the way Priya looked down, in the way Marcus stopped scrolling, in the way Caleb suddenly became very interested in the floor. Sienna stepped closer and lowered her voice like she could still pull me into a private corner and turn the volume down on reality. John, can we please talk alone? No. Her face tightened. So now you're punishing me? I'm protecting myself. You made me look awful. I nodded once. Your reputation is not my responsibility when the truth is what damaged it. She flinched like I had shouted. I hadn't. That was the strange part. I had spent months afraid that if I said what I meant, it would come out ugly. But by then, I didn't need ugly. I needed done. I left a few minutes later with Nolan. Nobody stopped me. Nobody clapped. Nobody did any of the ridiculous movie stuff people imagine when they think truth comes out in public. It was just uncomfortable. Heavy. Real. But the messages started that night. Marcus, I owe you an apology. I thought this was just about the card thing. It wasn't. Another friend. That game night joke was rough and I should have said something. Priya, I'm sorry I laughed along before. I didn't know all of it, but I knew enough to not laugh. I appreciated that one the most because it didn't try to make her innocent. It was honest. Some people didn't say anything. A few quietly left the group chat. One person told me they didn't want to pick sides, which was fine. I had stopped needing people to hold a parade for basic decency. Sienna texted me the next morning. Sienna, can you call me? I didn't answer. Sienna, I know you're angry, but 4 years deserves a conversation. I typed back. Me, for years deserved respect. We're done. She called immediately. I let it ring. Then came. Sienna, so that's it? Me, that was it when you made me the answer to a joke you had been telling for months. She didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then, Sienna, I didn't cheat. I stared at that message for a long time because it told me exactly what she thought the lowest possible bar was. Me, I didn't end this because I needed a courtroom definition of cheating. I ended it because you treated me like a placeholder. Her next message was long. I didn't read all of it. I saw phrases like, you're throwing us away. You made everyone hate me. And I can't believe you'd expose private messages. I put my phone face down and walked away. Practical things came next because endings are never just emotional. There's subscriptions, spare keys, chargers, hoodies, streaming accounts, payment apps, and the weird drawer in your kitchen where someone else's stuff lives for years. I canceled the shared streaming plan she never paid for. I removed my card from a grocery delivery account she used more than I did. I sent her a clear list of what I had of hers and what I needed back. She tried to turn that into a meeting. Sienna, we should exchange everything in person. Just us. Me, Nolan will be there. Sienna, seriously? You need a witness now? Me, yes. Sienna, that's insulting. Me, so was most of May. She hated that. I could tell because she stopped answering for a while. When she came to get her things, Nolan sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, not saying much, just being present. I had packed her stuff in 2 boxes. Clothes, a hairdryer, a stack of books she had left by my bed, the mug she always used even though she had said it was ugly. She looked at the boxes and her face crumpled. You really packed everything, she said. That's usually what breaking up means. She hugged her arms around herself. You're being cold. I'm being clear. I loved you, John. I believe that in whatever way Sienna understood love. I think she loved having me there. She loved calling me when things fell apart. She loved that I remembered details, solved problems, paid deposits, picked her up, charged her phone, and softened the edges of her life. But she did not love me enough to protect my dignity when protecting it cost her a laugh. I'm not meeting alone so you can turn accountability into a performance, I said. Her eyes moved to Nolan, then back to me. So now I'm some manipulative monster? No, I said. You're someone who got used to disrespecting me because I kept staying. That was the closest I came to blaming myself out loud. She picked up one box. Nolan picked up the other and carried it to her car because he was still Nolan, protective even when annoyed. She stood by the open trunk and tried one last time. Caleb doesn't mean anything. I almost smiled because she still thought Caleb was the point. I'm not competing with Caleb, I said. I'm removing myself from the contest. She looked like she wanted to argue, but there was no angle left that didn't make her look worse. So she got in her car and left. The aftermath wasn't clean. It never is. For a while, I heard little pieces of things through people who didn't understand that I didn't want updates. Caleb stopped getting invited to some smaller hangouts. Not all of them. People like Caleb don't vanish because they get exposed once. They just get quieter around people who finally notice the trick. Sienna told a few people the screenshots were selective. Maybe they were. Every screenshot is selective, but the pattern wasn't. She had mocked me publicly, depended on me privately, flirted with Caleb behind the scenes, and built a version of me where any boundary I set could be dismissed as insecurity. That version didn't survive contact with context. I left the group chat a week later. Before I did, I sent one message. I'm not staying anywhere my relationship pain is treated like entertainment. I don't need everyone to agree with me. I just needed the lie to stop being the only story. Then I left. Priya and I got coffee once afterward. She apologized again, face to face this time. She said she had laughed because it was easier than making the room uncomfortable. I told her I understood, but I didn't pretend it hadn't mattered. That's fair, she said quietly. Nolan never said, I told you so, which was probably the greatest act of restraint in his adult life. He just helped me move a few things around my place, so it stopped looking like Sienna might walk in at any second and ask where her charger was. The first weekend alone felt strange. Not peaceful at first, just quiet. I'd reach for my phone when I heard a buzz, expecting another accusation or another demand that I fix something I didn't break. But after a while, the quiet stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like space. I'm not proud that I stayed as long as I did. I ignored too many red flags because I didn't want to look insecure. I let "it's just a joke" work on me long after the jokes stopped being funny. I kept trying to prove I was reasonable to someone who was using my reasonableness against me. But I am proud of how I left. I didn't scream at Caleb. I didn't beg Sienna to choose me. I didn't try to become more exciting, more jealous, more competitive, or more careless just to win back respect from someone who had already decided respect was optional. I just stopped making myself available to be useful and disposable at the same time. For the first time in 4 years, I stopped auditioning for a role I never should have had to earn. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.